Welcome to Shahnameh, Book of Kings. Today we continue with the Legend of Seyavash as he begins to tell about his dream to his wife. On the fourth night, Seyavash slept in Farigis' arms. He began to tremble and stared up from sleep, roaring like a maddened elephant. Beside him, his wife said, "My prince, what is it?" Then she called for tapers and for sandalwood and ambergris to be burned before him. Again she asked, "My king, what did you see in your dream?" Seyavash said, "Tell no one what I've dreamed. My love, my silver cypress tree. I saw an endless river, and on the further shore a mountain of fire, and men with lances crowded the bank. The fire began to overwhelm my city, Seyavash. On one side there was water, on the other side fire, and between them was Afrasyab mounted on an elephant. He saw me and frowned, and he blew on the fire to make it flare up. Farigis said, 'This can only have a good meaning. Sleep now for the rest of the night.' But Seyavash rose and called his troops to the palace courts, his dagger in his hand, and he began to prepare for battle, and set out scouts to watch the road from Gang. When 2 watches of the night had passed, one of the scouts galloped back from the plain, saying, 'Afrasyab and a great horde of soldiers have appeared in the distance. They are hurrying this way.' And then a courier brought a message from Garsavaz. 'Save yourself.' Nothing I said had any effect, and the fire sends out clouds of threatening smoke. Decide what you must do and where you should lead your army." Still, Seyavash did not suspect his behavior, believing all that he had told him. Farigis said, "My wise king, don't think of me. Put no trust in Tehran, but saddle a swift horse and flee. You must stay alive, save your own head, and give no thought to anyone else." Seyavash replied, "My dream was true, and the glory of my life darkens. My time on earth draws to its close, and only bitterness remains. But this is the heaven's way, bestowing now pleasure and now sorrow. If my palace reached to the stars, still the world's poison would have to be tasted. And if I lived for 1,200 years, still my resting place would be the dark earth. You are 5 months pregnant, and if the fruit maturing in your womb should grow to ripeness, you'll be delivered of a splendid prince. Name him Khosrow, and may he be a consolation for your sorrows. Soon, by Afrasyab's command, my luck will sink to sleep. Though I am innocent, they will cut off my head, and my crown will be soaked in my vitals' blood. I have no coffin, shroud, or grave, no mourners to lament my death. I shall lie like a stranger in the dirt, my head severed from my body by a sword blow. The king's bodyguards will drag you naked through the streets, and Piran will come to beg you from your father. He'll take you in your wretchedness to his castle. A warrior will come from Iran and lead you and your son secretly across the Oxus. Your son will be placed on the throne, and from the fish in the seas to the birds in the air, all creation will serve him. A huge army will come from Iran, intent on vengeance. The world will be filled with tumult. Armies will clash in the war of my revenge. The earth will groan from end to end in torment, and Khosrow will throw the world into confusion." This was his farewell to Farigis. "Dearest wife, I must leave. Harden your heart and bid farewell to ease and luxury." She scored her cheeks and tore out her hair, her heart filled with grief for her husband, her eyes with tears. The 2 clung to one another in their grief. Then, weeping and heartsick, Seyavash left their apartment. He went to the stables where his Arab horses were kept, and found Black Behzad, who on the battlefield outran the wind. Lifting off his halter, Seyavash wept, took Behzad's head in his arms, and whispered in his ear, "Let no one near you until Khosrow returns. He will replace your bridle. Then you must bid farewell to the stable, and bear him to war and vengeance." He hamstrung all the other horses, wild as a fire that burns through reeds. Then he and his warriors set out for Iran, their faces blinded by tears. But after they had traveled half a parsang, they were confronted by the army of Tehran. Seeing them in their armor with their swords at the ready, Seyavash buckled on his breastplate and said to himself, Garsivash spoke the undeniable truth. Each side eyed the other's ranks. Before this, neither had felt any enmity for the other. Turan's cavalry held back at fear of Seyavash. The Iranians drew up in battle order and prepared for bloodshed. All of them were ready to fight alongside Seyavash. Neither delay nor reproaches would be any use now. They said, "If we're killed, we won't go down to the dust alone, and they'll see what battle with Persians means, and not consider us contemptible." Seyavash said, "There is no sense to this. This battle has neither head nor tail to it. We'll shame ourselves, and my gift to my father-in-law is to make war on him. But if the heavens decree that I shall be destroyed by evil, I have no strength or desire to oppose God's will. As the wise have said, there is no point in striving against an evil fate." Then he called out to Afrasyab, "Great and glorious king, why have you come with your army ready for war? Why do you wish to kill me, though I am innocent? You will stir up the armies of our two countries and fill the land with curses." Garsivash replied, "You senseless fool! When has such talk ever been worth anything? If you're so innocent, why have you come before the king armed? A show of bows and shields is no way to welcome a monarch." The sun rose as Garsivash spoke, and Afrasyab ordered his men to draw their swords and roar their war cry as if judgment day had come. He said, "Grasp your weapons and make this plain a sea of blood to float a ship on." There were 1,000 Persian warriors there, all good fighting men, but they were surrounded on all sides and slaughtered. Seyavash was wounded by arrows and lances and fell from his black horse as he lay in the dust. Guru wrenched his hands behind his back and bound them tight as a stone. They set a yoke on his shoulders and dragged him on foot, hemmed in by soldiers, his face bleeding, toward Seyavashgard. The prince had never seen such a day as this. Afrasyab said, "Take him off the road to a stony place where no plants grow, and cut off his head. Let his blood sink into the hot soil there. Fear nothing, and be quick about it." But the army cried out with one voice, "Great king, what is his sin? Why would you kill someone for whom the very crown and throne will weep? In the days of prosperity, do not plant a tree whose fruit will be poison." Piran's clear-sighted younger brother, Pilsum, was there. He said to Afrasyab, "The fruit of this tree will be plain, and Sorrow the wise say that one who acts circumspectively has little to regret, that reason soothes anger, and that haste in the work of Ahriman, bringing guilt to the soul and pain to the body. There's no sense in cutting off a subject's head perceptibly. Keep him in chains until time teaches you the best course. Act with wisdom's wind that has touched your heart. A wise king does not sever a head that's worn a crown. And if you kill this innocent, his father Kavas and Rostam will brought him up and will seek revenge. Men like Gudars, Gorgon, Farad, and Tus will bind war drums on their elephants, and the mammoth-bodied Give, who despite all enemies, and Kavas' son Farabas, a lion who never tires of battle, will ready themselves for a war of vengeance. The plains will be thronged with warriors. Neither I nor any like me in this company will be a match for them. But Piran will be here at dawn. Wait and hear his advice." Garsivash said, "Pay no attention to a young man's prattle. Vultures feed on their warriors killed in battle. If you're afraid of vengeance, this will be sufficient cause for Persia's enmity. You've done enough harm. Must you once again listen to raw advice from foolish men? If this prince calls from Rum's and China's borders, swordsmen and troops will flock to hear his orders. You've wounded the snake's head. Now you're afraid and want to wrap its body in brocade? Well, spare him if you wish, but I won't be a part of it. You've seen the last of me. In some dark cave I'll hide myself and live in fear until my dying day." Then Dama and Guru came forward, plausibly twisting their words. "Don't worry about spilling Seyavash's blood. Delay is wrong when there's work to do. Take Garsivaz's good advice and destroy your enemy. You set the trap and caught him. Don't hesitate now. You have the leader of the Persians in your grip. Now break their hearts of those who oppose you. You've destroyed his army already. How do you think the Persian king is going to look on you? If you have done nothing against him from the beginning, this could have been overlooked, but now it's better if he disappears from the world entirely." The king replied, "I've seen no sin in him, But the astrologers say that hardship will come because of him. But if I spill his blood, a whirlwind of vengeance will arise from Iran. I have brought evil on Tehran, and sorrow and pain on myself. To free him is worse than killing him, and killing him is grief and agony to me. But neither wise nor evil men know what the heavens will bring. Farigis heard his talk, and came before the king, her cheeks bloodied, her hair smeared with dust. Wailing and trembling with pain and fear, she said, "Great king, why will you make a widow of me? Why have you given your heart to lies? In your glory you cannot see the misery before you. Don't cut off an innocent prince's head. The ruler of the sun and moon will not approve of this. Seyavash abandoned Iran with all the world to choose from, made his obeisances to you. He renounced his crown and throne, and father's goodwill for your sake. And he became your ally and support. What more do you want from him? Who has deceived you? And am I innocent? Do not mistreat me. The world is fleeting, casting one into the pit of misery and raising another to glory, but both descend to the dark earth finally. Do not listen to malignant Garsavaz's lies. So make yourself an emblem of evil throughout the world. You've heard what the Arab tyrant Zahak suffered at Feridun's hands, and what the great king Manucher did to the malevolent Son and Tur. In Kaffa's court, live men like Rostam, who is contemptuous of Tehran, and whose name the world trembles. Gudars, of whom lions are terrified. Bahram and Zanga, the son of Shafran. You are planting a tree whose leaves will bring blood, and whose fruit is vengeance. The world's glory will darken and curse Afrasyab. You are ruining yourself, and you will have long years in which to remember my words. You're not out hunting now, bringing down some wild ass or deer. You're destroying a prince, and the throne and crown will curse you. Do not cast the land of Tehran to the winds, or make this an evil day that you will regret." Having said this, she gazed at Seyavash's face, wailing and clawing her cheeks. The king pitied her, but sealed up the eyes of wisdom and said, "Leave, get back to the palace. What do you know of what I do and don't do?" They took Farigis and locked her in a dark room deep in the palace. Garsavaz looked at Goru and turned his face aside and stepped before Seyavash, abandoning all chivalry and shame. He grasped the prince by the hair and began to drag him away. Seyavash cried out, "Great God, who rules our earthly state and destiny, bring forth a bough for me that will be like a shining sun to my people, who will seek revenge for my death and renew my ways in my own land." Filsam followed him, his eyes awash with tears, his heart filled with sorrow. Seyavash said to him, "Farewell. May fortune weave her threads with yours forever. Convey my greetings to Piran. Tell him the world has changed, that I had other hopes of Piran when I was like a willow tree bending before the wind of his advice. He told me that when my luck turned, he would be at my side with 100,000 infantry and cavalry, that he would be like a pasture for my foraging. But now that I am hailed by Garsavaz on foot despite this wretched, I see no one here to befriend me or to weep for me." Garsavaz and Goru dragged him away from the army and the city to a waste place on the plain. Goru took the dagger from Garsavaz, and when they had reached the appointed place, they threw the prince's mammoth body to the ground. Knowing neither fear nor shame, they held a gold dish at his throat to catch the blood, and severed the head of that silver cypress tree. The prince's head sank into endless sleep, never to awake. Goru took the dish to the place that Afrasyab had ordered and emptied it. A wind rose up, and darkness obscured the sun and moon. People could not see one another's faces, and all curse Goru. I turn to right and left. In all the earth I see no signs of justice, sense, or worth. A man does evil deeds, and all his days are filled with luck and universal praise. Another's good, in all he does he dies, a wretched, broken man whom all despise. Seyavash's palace resounded with lamentations. His slaves cut off their hair, and Farigis, she too cut off her musky tresses, and bound them about her waist, and clawed at her cheeks' roses. Loudly she cursed Afrasyab, and when he heard her cries, he ordered Garsavaz to drag her into the streets, and there to strip her and have her beaten, so that she would miscarry the seed of Iran, saying, I want nothing to grow from Seyavash's root, neither a tree, nor a bough, nor a leaf. I want no scion from his worthy of a crown or throne. One by one, the nobles of his entourage condemned him, saying that no one had ever heard of a king or minister who had given such an order. Vilsam came weeping and heartsick to Lahok and Farsavard, and said, Hell is better than Afrasyab's realm, and this land will know no rest or peace now. We should go to Piran and seek help for these tormented women. They saddled 3 fine horses and hurried to Piran's castle, where they arrived covered in sweat and dust. They told him what Seyavash had, how he had been dragged on foot, bound with a yoke placed about his neck, and that he had been forced to the ground by Goru, and his face twisted up like a sheep's, while a basin was held to catch his blood, that his head had been severed, and that his body lay like a silver cypress felled in a meadow. They said that a heathen shepherd of the deserts would not slit a man's throat in such a way, that all the land mourned for Seyavash, and that tears stood in all eyes like dew. Piran fell from his throne in a faint, and when he came to, he tore at his hair and clothes and heaped dust on his head. Vilsam said to him, Hurry, pain is heaped upon pain. Farigis will be killed. Guards have dragged her by her hair to the court. Don't turn your back on her distress. Piran had 10 good horses brought from his stable, and in 2 days and nights the group arrived at Afrasyab's court. They saw the gates thronged with warders and executioners, and Farigis dragged forward, as if insensible, by guards and drawn swords in their hands. The court was in tumult, weeping and lamenting and condemning Afrasyab, saying that he would have Farigis hacked in 2, that his horrific crime would utterly destroy his sovereignty, and that no one would ever call him king again. Piran rode forward like a wind, and everyone with any sense rejoiced. Farigis saw him through her bloody tears and said, See what evil you have brought upon me. You have thrown me living into the fire. Piran dismounted and tore at his clothes in grief. He told the guards crowded about the gates to delay carrying out their orders. Then, weeping and heartsore, he rushed before Afrasyab and said, Great king, live prosperously and wisely. What evil has darkened your benevolence? What demon has gained power over you, destroying all shame before God and your soul? By killing the sinless Seyavash, you thrown your own honor and glory in the dust. When this news reaches Iran, the court will go into mourning, and their nobles will lead a great army here intent on vengeance. The world was at peace, and God's way prevailed, and now some demon has burst from hell and deceived the king's heart. Curses on that demon, that devil who perverted your heart. For long years, you'll regret this living in pain and sorrow. And now that you've dealt with Seyavash, you turn against your own child? But Farigis has no desire for glory or sovereignty. Don't make yourself a byword for cruelty by killing your pregnant daughter. You will be cursed throughout the world for as long as you live, and when you die, hell will be your throne. If the king would brighten my soul, he will send her to my castle, and if you fear her child, wait until it's born. I'll bring it to you, and then do with it whatever evil you wish. Afrasyab replied, Do as you say. You have made me unwilling to shed her blood. Heartened by this, Piran went to the gates, paid off the guards, and took Farigis away from the court and its lamentations. He brought her to Khotan, and when they arrived, entrusted her to Gulshah, his wife, saying, Hide this lovely woman away. Look after her well. Days passed, and Farigis, whose glory lit the world, grew heavier. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back tomorrow with more tales. Many more tales. Until then, my friends.